Greetings, everybody. Now that Ross Perot is here, we can start. I'm going to make an exception here and just turn over the moderation to you, sir. Anyway, it's great to see you here. So this is a real treat because I'm going to be in conversation. My highest compliment to somebody is I've been stealing his ideas for years, and I've been stealing Majid Jafar's ideas for years, and I've been looking forward to this conversation. So it's now an understatement. We're meeting an extraordinary moment. Strait of Hormuz effectively closed. Qatar's LNG under force majeure. U.S. has in turn tried running naval escorts, aerial campaign, intensive diplomacy to reopen one of the most critical choke points in the global energy system. We all know these things. The energy security implications are severe. The outcome is uncertain. Majid has joined us from the region. He's just flown in. There's nobody better positioned to help us understand what this means for the Gulf, for global supply, and for the long-term future of the region's energy role than Majid Jafar. Chief Executive Officer of Crescent Petroleum, Vice Chairman of Crescent Group, Managing Director of the Board of Dana Gas, operated across UAE, Iraq, broader Middle East for nearly half a century, and Majid has been at the center of some of the most consequential energy developments in the region. Also been a friend of the Atlantic Council for many years, personal friend, and a member of our International Advisory Board. So let's start there. Back in February, we spoke in Dubai about resilience and fragmentation. Since then, the Strait of Hormuz has reminded us how interconnected energy, security, and growth remain. I said in the last panel that last year at this time we had Operation Midnight Hammer, but I don't remember anyone talking at that time, even after Iran got hit, that we might be facing this kind of weaponization of geography, if you want to call it that. Were you surprised? How do you think the conversation has been changed? How do you think people are looking at energy security differently in your region today?
Thank you, Fred. Great to be with you. So before I start, I want to give credit to Egypt, since many of you heard what the minister said. So Dana Gas, one of our group companies, we've invested over $2 billion in the country. We have over 1,000 people there. And we've had challenges over the years, and one of the big ones has been receivables, delayed receivables, which is obviously key for investor confidence. This month, actually, we've completely closed out all receivables, and that's been a policy priority. All the oil and gas companies in Egypt should be fully paid out 100%, and that's huge for investor confidence, so I wanted to give credit there. So Fred and I have a conversation on video at least once a quarter, and it's a true conversation, and I learn a lot, probably more than he does from me. So we thought we'd have that in front of you, and hopefully you'll find it enjoyable and learn too. If not, we'll just take it private again. So I only accepted to do this in condition I can ask him questions too. I will do.
I was told belatedly and reluctantly about
because he has a great perspective. If any of you are not on his newsletter, you should get on it. I think it really helps put world events in perspective. We've been a proud partner, as you said, of the Global Energy Forum, I think since inception, all 10 of them, as a Platinum co-chair back in Abu Dhabi when they started. Also the Iraq initiative that we started together, and Victoria Taylor is here. And more recently, the CEO dialogue in Dubai. And when we met in February, it was a different Middle East. It was a different world. Yeah. Congratulations for this Global Energy Forum, and congratulations to all of you for helping to break, I think, a record. You said this is the largest ever Atlantic Council hosted event.
In our 65-year history. So 1,900 people, 85 countries and counting, and that's really quite something.
Testament to you, testament to the Council, and also that we are in the capital of the global energy leader, as we heard through multiple sessions today. And I'm not from the United States, but we can say that clearly, whether it's the shale revolution and so many other things that have just changed the world for good. So it has been a shock to the region. I certainly didn't expect this. We live in a turbulent region. We've seen a lot of turbulence, and something had been building up. But I think the impact of it and the scale of it, the fact that every single country in the Middle East was attacked at the same time, not necessarily from the same direction, some from multiple directions, like Iraq, where we have a big operation. And then the global impact. Like if you had said that because of a war between Iran, Israel, and US, and in the Gulf, that farmers in the Midwest would be choosing different crops now in planting season, I don't think I could have projected that or anybody else, and how important the Gulf region is beyond just oil, and not just natural gas, but whether it's fertilizer or helium for semiconductors, but at the same time, it heightens the importance of the things we were already discussing in February at the CEO dialogue and elsewhere. The importance of energy security, the fact that the AI, the digital revolution, rests upon very physical infrastructure, especially energy, fundamentally energy. And friends in the AI space, techies, pure techies, who are not even in our energy industry, say to me that the AI race is an energy race. And that was before the war. I think this isn't the first shock we've had. COVID was a wake-up call. Ukraine, and an area that you've been speaking about and the council's done a lot of work on. And this is perhaps the biggest one because of the global impact. And at the moment, it is primarily an Asian crisis, but Asia is the economic engine of the world. But I think very soon we're going to be seeing the wider impact elsewhere.
So you've operated in the region for 50 years.
I get a question now.
Should I wait for yours?
If you don't mind,
okay,
yeah.
Sure.
So if we can step up as you do so well, and the Atlantic Council was formed post-war era, and we've, since that, the end of the Second War, we've lived in a world of, global rules, freedom of navigation, international law, and we're now seeing the weaponization of energy, obstruction to that freedom of navigation, and not only in the Middle East. We've had issues in Asia, we've had issues in Latin America. Are these just bumps on the road, or are we now, in your view, heading towards a fundamentally different global order?
Yeah, so I will answer that. This reminds me, I worked for the Wall Street Journal for many years, and we were doing a real estate conference in Cannes, and we were doing convening around the Cannes International Real Estate Conference, and we were trying to get a very famous Texan, Harlan Crow, to interview, and he was a little bit reclusive, didn't want to be interviewed. And so I went over to his yacht, which was the biggest piece of real estate in all of Cannes, and he said, "I'm only going to go on if I get to interview you." And I said, "Well, okay." And because people there didn't know him and didn't know me, and so we came on to the stage, and he said, "Hi, I'm Fred Kempe, and I don't know why I'm interviewing this loser real estate person." I mean, and you make your money. So anyway, we won't do it that way. But it was a very, very funny. And then we switched chairs at a certain point, and everybody brought down the house, and it was a great interview, wonderful interview. I think things have fundamentally changed. I think the notion that we're going to get into another wonderful period of globalization is quite a ways in the future. The question for me is, how fragmented do things get? And if you look at the weaponization of geography, which is what Iran has done, China used the weaponization of critical minerals, and that's the reason that the U.S. Couldn't impose the kind of tariffs that it wanted to. And in both cases, I'd say the Trump administration underestimated what the Chinese had in terms of leverage and underestimated what the Iranians have had in terms of leverage, but I don't think we're going to be underestimating that kind of thing anymore. So I think it's fundamentally changed, and one of the reasons why I think it's so crucial that this war end with Iran not controlling the Strait and the Strait being an open waterway again without fees of any sort, is you can't let that happen, and you can't let that change. So yeah, I think it's changed and we have to live with it, but we can make it less bad if we don't allow that bad behavior. And then on critical minerals, we have to just come up with them ourselves. Do I get my question now?
Yeah.
So here it is. You've been there for 50 years. Let me ask you the same question. What has fundamentally changed in the region? So I was talking to Anwar Gargash, one of the people I respect most in the UAE, and he was saying to me, you know, there were hawks and doves toward Iran. And the doves said, no, it's much better to engage with Iran. In the end, that'll be the way to go. And the hawks said, no, they're going to be our adversary. We have to get ready for this. This is how we have to plan our military. You now see the UAE using Iron Drone from Israel. Has there been a fundamental shift in the region that there's an understanding that it's Iran, not Israel, that's the adversary, or not? I mean, how big is this shift that we're going through from a geopolitical standpoint?
So I think, you know, I've grown up in the region, in the UAE, and we lived through the Iraq-Iran war, we lived through the first Gulf War, and lots of turbulence, lots of wars in between. This is the first time that all the Gulf countries, the GCC, have been attacked in this way. Of course,
right from the beginning, but
right from the beginning. Of course,
right
the exception being Kuwait, as Sheikh Nawaf pointed out, the Iraq invasion of Kuwait. So Kuwait had that experience. And yet, what's been interesting living through it, and my arrival yesterday morning was my first travel outside the UAE since January, since I last saw you in Davos. I'd never spent that long without traveling, but it was important for the security of our operations and our own procedures and protocols. And the resilience shown by the countries, during COVID, we had a shock.
Yeah.
And many people, outside watchers, thought these are relatively new countries with undeveloped systems, and actually held up extremely well, better than many much older countries in the West, for example, which is what brought more people to the UAE during and after the COVID crisis, that the health infrastructure was incredible and very solid, and the government response to a crisis. And I think some lessons were learned there that were brought into this. Obviously, a very different type of shock, military attacks, so different institutions. But the institutional framework for dealing with a crisis and the defense systems. I mean, we had over 3,000 attacks in the UAE, very low casualty rate. Obviously, every casualty or death is a tragedy, but very, very low. So people in the country did not feel unsafe.
Really remarkable, maybe a dozen...
12, I think, from my recollection. Yeah. And mostly from
more than 3,000 hits.
Falling debris from the interceptions.
Yeah.
So people in the country felt safe, and tourists left. Mm-hmm. And the way they were enabled to leave was also very important. Mm-hmm. The fact that the airports kept running, so people could leave and return, and there were no capital controls and significant support to the banking system to make sure the liquidity. So even though some money might have left, I'm confident that it'll come back, because that's what investors remember. Mm-hmm. Could I enter and leave, and could my money enter and leave? Those are very important for confidence. So I think that the resilience shown will be built upon. So I think the region will come out stronger. Obviously, we need the right end to the crisis and the war. It's very important for the world economy. I mean, that's why attacks on energy infrastructure are considered war crimes under international law because of the consequences. And the consequences today are being felt in some of the poorest countries in Asia. And when a country like India starts putting in place, energy saving schemes like work from home, that's staggering. And we've seen that across Asia now. So I'm confident that the outcome will be positive in many ways for the region, despite the geopolitical turmoil and heightened risk currently.
So it's my turn or your turn now?
So it's my turn.
Okay.
So in addition to being a great journalist in your past and a leader of this institution, you're also a historian. And you've written some great books, and I can strongly recommend the 1961 Berlin, when the world faced a real crisis, a dangerous point. So if we jump 20 years or 50 years into the future and look back at this era that we're living through now, not just for the Middle East, but for the world in terms of the great power politics, rivalries, the rise of technology, the geoeconomics, the many things that the Atlantic Council has made great specialties of. How do you think it will be assessed and described?
I've been talking about this period of time as the fourth inflection point since the end of World War I. And so I'll do this telegraphically. But the first is the period after World War I. And let's not forget, artificial intelligence is an age that I've been comparing to the Industrial Revolution. The Industrial Revolution brought us a lot of good, created a lot of great jobs, got people off land into jobs where they earned a lot more, GDP grew, a lot of things improved. It also brought us communism, it brought us capitalism, and it brought us World War I and World War II, both mechanized warfare that was impossible before. So one of the things I'm looking at is what will artificial intelligence change in politics, change in warfare, change in the stress in the world. Anyone who says it's definitely not going to be as dramatic as the Industrial Revolution is just wrong. And it's moving faster with less time for us to adjust to it. But because we know that, so let's look out the 50 years at how bad it could be. By seeing that, you can take steps now so it's not so bad. So it's the first inflection point, end of World War I, and that didn't turn out so well. We ended up with fascism. We ended up with the U.S. going in isolationist, the failure of the League of Nations, failure of the Treaty of Versailles. World War II comes. World War II turns out the end of World War II. The founders of the Atlantic Council, had experienced 2 world wars, and they said, not again. We created international institutions. We created 80 years of the greatest peace and prosperity among major powers the world probably has ever seen. We did something aberrational in the United States, which is we built multilateral institutions. And we stayed the course with our former adversaries, Germany and Japan. End of Cold War, mixed bag. Some things were good, enlargement of NATO, enlargement of the European Union. Some things were bad. Russia didn't turn out the way we thought it would or hoped it would, and China, as it grew, didn't become a more responsible stakeholder in the global system. Now we're in what I'm calling the fourth great inflection point, and that has war in the Middle East, war in Europe, changes of technology as fast as we've ever seen. And again, it's going to be the U.S. with partners and allies shaping it, and it's up for grabs. And I think 40 years from now will be in maybe the most prosperous, progressive, advanced, enlightened era the world has ever seen, or not. But it's going to be dependent on what we decide today. Which brings me to the question I'd like to ask you that's sort of along the same lines. Maybe take that same view But I'll phrase it a little bit differently. Those of you who don't know Majid, he's an optimistic human being. He's through crises that we've always talked about in the past, you've come into a lot of things where people are not as optimistic, and you've come to me and I've heard you with a fundamentally optimistic outlook. So same question, looking 40, 50 years out, but also looking at this period of time and how you see the long-term trajectory of the energy system, since that's your field. Do you have confidence? Are you getting worried by what you're saying? Are you keeping your fundamentally optimistic outlook, and if so, why?
So first on the AI point, and our region had already been playing, and I think will continue to play, and even more so, a key role there. We've got the capital, we've got the low-cost energy that's fundamental to it, and the agile policy making. And on the energy, I don't think people appreciate. We hear the high-level numbers, but every basic search on your AI tool is 10 times more energy than a Google search. You make a video for a minute, it's an hour's worth of energy supply for a Western household, which is a lot more than an African household or an Indian household. You train one of these models, and it's what 100 houses would use in a year. So then you take that, you multiply it, by billions of people. It's a staggering amount of energy that's needed. I think the engagement we've seen from the U.S. Government, particularly this administration, has been really positive. And we thought that, does America first mean America only? And just prioritizing U.S. domestic production or LNG exports. We haven't seen that at all. We've seen incredibly, whether it's Chris Wright or Doug Ingram, the Secretary of Interior, or Jared, as we heard, it was a national dominance agenda, but very active abroad. For example, where we operate in Iraq, we've invested over $4 billion. We're the biggest gas producer now, getting close to 1 billion cubic feet per day of gas. And we increased our production 50% last year with U.S. Development Finance Corporation support. We just had Ben Black speaking next door. So it's a great partnership. And through thick and thin, because we've had 11 attacks on us even before the war, rockets and drones. But we continued investing, we continued producing, because we prioritize the local needs. And we find if you align yourself with what is needed locally, in terms of affordable, reliable, and cleaner energy, you won't go wrong in the long term. And we take we've been at this 55 years now, 20 years in Iraq, so we take a long-term view. So I think this crisis, despite the negative headlines, has reminded us the importance of our region, the importance of energy, and the importance of building that resilience through the physical infrastructure, for sure, in terms of redundancy and alternate routes, but also the people, the systems, and the institutions that are resilient, which means their ability to withstand and manage during shocks. And then the third element, which is critical, and we've heard a lot about that this morning as well, is partnership. Having the right partners over the long term that you can rely on in a crisis, whether that's service companies, whether that's investors, financial partners. If you're a country, it's international relations, suppliers, customers, because resilience is not just going to be about who can produce, but who can actually ensure through the whole value chain, all the way through to the customer, that supply is secure. Because ultimately, that's what it's going to be about.
So if you're just to pick out an opportunity out of this crisis, what's the greatest opportunity you think you might be able to extract out of this current crisis?
So we have a lot of reserves still to develop that are not dependent on the straits, that can get to markets through overland routes. One of our group companies managing port on the East Coast, which is very busy now, supplying the UAE, looking at pipeline projects that are going to be required. So on the infrastructure space, we are an energy and infrastructure group. So we're going to be busy. And I think that's going to be the case across our region, but also worldwide. This recognition that the digital and the physical go hand in hand. This is not like the digital revolution or the dot-com revolution of 20 years ago.
Yeah.
That was far less energy intensive
Right.
than this is going to be. Of course, you've got to manage the local. I mean, we had it in headline in the Post yesterday that there is a resistance to data centers now and the speed of their growth here in the US. So those things will have to be managed, but I think the overall trajectory is positive.
Terrific. So we've run out of time, but I'm going to use this for a short a commercial break. What Majid said about partnerships, I think there's nothing we feel more deeply about the Atlantic Council, and that it's true over time. We were created to promote partnerships and alliances. That was the founding of the Atlantic Council. Our mission statement is shaping the global future together. 5 words, says everything you need to know about what we're trying to do with this forum and at the Atlantic Council. First of all, it's shaping. We're not doing 5 events and 6 papers. We're also doing events and papers. But the point is to move the needle on issues, whether it's Victoria Taylor on Iraq, or whether it's our friends trying to save Ukraine, or whether it's our friends looking at the future of artificial intelligence. So shaping, one word. A lot of places want to observe, they want to write, they want to publish. We want to shape through what we do. The global future, as I answered to your really interesting question, it's up for grabs. It's being competed. And so we dare not engage in that contest because we won't like the outcome if less benevolent actors win. And then together, with partners and allies, national partners, national allies, institutional partners, institutional allies, partners and allies that we work with as the Atlantic Council works with Majid and Crescent and with all of you. So with that, thank you to Majid Jafar, and thank you for provoking me in this conversation. Thank you. Bye-bye.